Chapter number 3, The Law of Process. Leadership develops daily, not in a day. Our biblical character for this law is Joseph. Becoming a leader is a lot like investing successfully in the stock market. If your hope is to make a fortune in a day, you're not going to be successful. What matters most is what you do day by day over the long haul. My friend Tag Short maintains, the secret of our success is found in our daily agenda. If you continually invest in your leadership development, letting your leadership assets compound, the inevitable result is growth. Like many leaders, Joseph had a vision long before he had the leadership ability to make it happen. He had a divine leadership destiny, but he didn't start out as an effective leader. He held no influence with his brothers or anyone other than his father, for that matter. Before God could use him, Joseph had to be prepared, purified, and forged into the leader he had the potential to become. Like Joseph, all great leaders need 3 things to prepare them to lead effectively. Number 1, time to mature. Joseph labored in obscurity for a season of his life before becoming qualified to lead others. Sold into slavery at only 17, he finally stood before Pharaoh for the first time at age 30. He required 13 years to be prepared. By the time he interpreted the monarch's dream, he was a changed man. He had become a great leader. Number 2, trials to strengthen. Gold is purified only after it passes repeatedly through the fire. Diamonds are created only under extreme pressure, and great leaders are formed only through trials. Joseph would never have reached his potential if he had stayed at home. To become a great leader, he had to become a slave and a prisoner first. Number 3, God to bless. Without God, a leader can do nothing of real value. In John chapter 15, verse 5, Jesus declared, "He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit. For without me you can do nothing." God blessed Joseph as he worked in Potiphar's house as a slave. Then he blessed him as he worked in the prison. In fact, 4 times in chapter 39 of Genesis, the Bible expresses God's favor on Joseph's life. But in the beginning, that wasn't necessarily the case. Joseph was a cocky kid, which is not unusual for a boy of 17. And when God gave him a dream revealing that he would one day become the leader of his family, not only of his 11 brothers, but also of his parents, Joseph thoughtlessly told everyone about it. His father rebuked him, and his brothers wanted revenge. The truth is that everyone starts out in a state of ignorance. That's obviously where Joseph began. He didn't understand the dynamics of his family. Either he was ignorant of how his brothers would react when he shared his dream, or he didn't care about the damage he would do to their relationships. The scripture says his brothers already hated him. When he shared his dream, they hated him even more. It took a life-changing incident to arrest Joseph's attention and start him on the road to change. Sold by his brothers into slavery in Egypt, he began to learn and grow as a leader. He came to understand that leadership is difficult and carries a huge weight of responsibility. Over the years, Joseph experienced betrayal, and he received lessons in human nature, relationships, and leadership. The process molded his character. He developed patience and humility. He began to recognize that God was his source of blessing and power. Leaders who show great skill when opportunity presents itself do so only because they've paid the price to prepare for that opportunity. When Joseph was finally called before Pharaoh, he performed with excellence and wisdom. He didn't succeed because he suddenly got good at age 30. He succeeded because he had been paying the price for 13 years. Because of his wisdom and discernment, Joseph was made second in command of what was then the most powerful nation on earth. For 7 years, during the time of plenty in Egypt, Joseph skillfully executed his leadership plan. He filled the cities of Egypt with grain, and he prepared the country for the coming famine. His primary goal was to feed the people of Egypt during the 7 difficult years. But because of the strength of his leadership, Joseph fed his monarch's nation, and he sustained the people of other lands. In the process, He brought all the money, livestock, and land of Egypt into the master's possession. He also fulfilled the prophecy of his teenage dreams. To become an effective leader, a person needs time. But time alone doesn't make someone an effective leader. Some people never discover the law of process. They don't work at growth, and they struggle to lead their entire lives. Nearly 23 years passed from the pit to the palace before Joseph was reunited with his brothers and his own vision was fulfilled. Although it took a lot of painful growth, Joseph eventually realized that God was directing the process of his leadership development, and he recognized that he was being grown as a leader for a much greater purpose than he could have ever imagined. By the time Jacob, his father, died, Joseph had learned to see things from God's perspective. Joseph could trace God's hand through his entire life, and he understood God's long-term plan for his people. At age 110, he told his family, "I am dying, but God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land to the land which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." He understood how God had impacted his life and how he intended to help future generations. As you reflect on the law of process in the story of Joseph, know this. Number 1, it's not the dream of a lifetime, it's the dream that takes a lifetime. Number 2, it takes time to grow as a leader. Number 3, it takes trials to grow as a leader. And finally, number 4, it takes God's help to grow as a leader. Many factors in your leadership development are beyond your control. Others are not. Joseph didn't choose the timing of his life, the trials he faced, or the way in which God would bless him. But he did choose to learn and grow. That choice is also yours. Where are you in the leadership development process? Are you in the dream development stage? Or do you already possess a dream and you desire to live it out? Either way, you need to grow as a leader. The greater the vision, the greater the need for good leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. As you prepare to turn off the tape, take the remaining minutes of your time to identify one person who will become your leadership growth partner. Think of someone with whom you can share leadership resources, discuss leadership, and solve problems on a regular basis. If you want to learn more about Joseph and the law of process, read this story in the book of Genesis.